Ever since I was a kid, I've always wanted to draw and create stories. I do this by either drawing instead of focusing on school, or just create horrifically dark storylines for my MLP and LPS toys and whatever else I had lying around to be a part of. I know at least one of y'all watching this had that exact same experience. Of course, this led me into creating my first official story at 11 years old, which the Speedpaint you're watching right now is a part of. I call it Find the Legacy. First, to explain what I'm doing, I am redrawing my Find the Legacy poster idea I do every year, because I like seeing how both my art and how the story develops year after year, which, by the way, you will see me struggle on a bit later. If you're listening to this while doing something else, that's cool too. Do it all the time working on my own projects. To begin, it was always planned to be a historical-ish series mixed in with fantasy and magic. The basic storyline is that Kat, the main character and the one holding the magic book, is the sixth in a legacy of phoenixes. These phoenixes are distinguishable by their signature red anime hair, something that no one else in this world has. The magic book is something a phoenix always carries with them. I don't have an exact idea on its purpose yet, but the general idea is that it shows info about the past phoenixes, if there is any at the moment, and info on how to help humanity. In this world, humanity is practically perfect. No wars, murders, or bad people. It's essentially a perfect paradise no one would ever want to leave. The Phoenix's job is to make sure that that peace is maintained as much as possible for however long they live. Or, at least that's what it used to mean. See, when the Phoenixes came, the book did as well, but it also carried a curse, or a prophecy, if you will. How the book works is that only the Phoenix may open it, access it, and even read it. Any human who tries looking over the Phoenix's shoulder is met with gibberish no one can translate. Try opening it, and it's as solid as brick. The Phoenix currently alive can read the book in their native tongue, but there is one page not even they can read, in the same gibberish that the humans see. Most of it is unreadable, but one sentence can be understood. It reads, "If the Phoenix cannot undo this curse by the minute they turn 18, they will die, and upon their death disaster shall come, marking it in history forever." So yeah, the prophecy includes a curse that they must undo, and if they fail, they will die on their 18th birthday. Of course, like I stated earlier, no one, not even the chosen kid themselves, can read it, and since it's never been translated, every phoenix who came before Kat has died on their 18th birthday, and a tragic event happened afterwards, making what's supposed to be a tale about rebirth become something related to destruction. Nowadays, it's called the Phoenix Curse because of the whole bad things aren't supposed to happen, but the Phoenix makes it happen anyway thing. And whichever poor town gets a Phoenix kid, something bad happens upon their death. The plot I'm getting to is that Kat is sort of forced by her Aunt Marie, ignore the name mistake on the image, to try and figure out how to translate the prophecy, so that Kat doesn't die. The reason for this being is that Marie and Kat are all they have left in terms of family. The parents abandoned Kat practically in the hospital, her only being hours old as soon as they realized their kid was a phoenix. Marie really doesn't want to lose anyone else in her family, so they hope that in translating the legacy, they can keep Kat alive. Kat is more resigned to her fate, but goes along with the translation search to try and keep her aunt happy. I'm gonna talk about the characters for now, and the ideas I've got on how to introduce them, / how to tell their stories in a way that's hopefully entertaining and educational, since I plan on the Phoenixes to be as historically accurate as possible. There are 5 dead Phoenixes in total. Let's begin with the first one historically recorded, Cecilia. Cecilia was born in Pompeii, Rome, in Italy. Before y'all go saying you already know how she died, that's the point of her story. I want the past 5 Phoenixes to slightly represent the 5 stages of grief in some type of way. Cecilia is stage 1, denial, thus the reason for her being so predictable. I plan on her being the Disney princess of all the Phoenixes, trying to say that the curse wasn't all that bad, and that her life of being depicted as a god was a good thing before the volcano erupted. It, of course, wasn't. How I plan for Kat to interact with these Phoenixes is with the help of the book. The only plan I have for now is for Kat and Aunt Marie to go to the places where the Phoenixes died, traveling all across the world if need be, and trying to find something that personally belonged to that particular Phoenix. Once found, the book begins its magical stuff and summons the ghost of the past Phoenix, along with a 3D-like reenactment of how the Phoenix lived back in the day. I like this idea because it presents a fun way of helping the past Phoenixes tell their story without needing the audience to think too much. For Cecilia's personality and character development, I actually struggled the most with coming up with her arc and how she struggled as a Phoenix. Every idea I have is one I already used for the other past Phoenixes. It will have something to do with denial though, that's for sure. Now, we are moving on to the next historically recorded Phoenix, Ixchel, the Mayan Phoenix. Now, I will come out of the gate here and sincerely apologize if I screwed up in researching the Mayans in any way while creating her. I specifically wanted to find clothing/culture of the 900 AD Mayans, but of course, the Mayans are known to be one of the most mysterious Mesoamerican tribes there are, and not having a solid point of reliable information at the time made it a lot worse. Overall, Ixchel's design and name was my first attempt at creating a Mayan character, and I most definitely plan on redesigning her once I can get more reliable information on Mayans and how they lived, since the best I got was Wikipedia. Once again, I sincerely apologize if I get anything wrong from what I've researched. Her story represents anger, not at other people, but at herself. In 900 AD, the Mayans were theorized to be at the end of their rope. The remains of the culture is now covered in rainforests, but back then the area was actually a hot, dry desert land, making farming incredibly hard to do. The best they had were fishing, but that was only for a select part of the Mayan society, since most of the people lived in the middle of the desert with little to no water. Combined with overpopulation, theorized, they were struggling big time. So, in my story, when Ixchel came around, back then the Phoenixes weren't seen as a curse, so they believed she was a gift from the gods to give them a second chance at prosperity, thus naming her after one of them. Growing up, Ixchel was then treated like a god, with the survival of an entire civilization upon her shoulders. And she failed. What's even worse is that Ixchel too doesn't know what truly caused the Mayans to die out. She died before they fell and only woke up as a ghost when researchers first discovered her remains, and that of what was left of her home. That explains why she's angry. She feels at fault for failing them, not only from dying, but from letting most of them be forgotten by history. As a ghost, she still tries upholding the standards she was given, even lecturing and yelling at Kat when she first doesn't take the Phoenixes and the Mayans too seriously at first. The encounter with Ixchel is where I plan on Kat taking this journey much more seriously. Cecilia was easy, so this is essentially the reality check, finally seeing just how much the past Phoenixes hated their jobs as much as Kat currently does. And this only gets more prevalent once the twins are introduced. Now, you might be asking, twins? The reason I bring this up is because the next two Phoenixes are twins. Now you might be wondering even more, after all, only one Phoenix is supposed to exist at a time, so why do the twins exist? Because they aren't supposed to. The next two Phoenixes are the twins, Foe, the older twin brother spelled F-A-U-X and pronounced foe as an enemy, and Faith, the younger twin sister. As you can probably tell, their birth caused lots of uproar. They lived from the late 1600s to the very early 1700s as royalty. At that moment in time, more of the public knew about the Phoenixes via legends and myths, so when the twins were born, it caused lots of uncertainty. I plan on the twins following the look-alike and acting eerily similar trope, but for a reason. Like I said earlier, the twins weren't supposed to be both the Phoenix. As a result, they subconsciously do everything the same. Keep in mind, neither of them want this. They want their own identities and lives, but by the law of the Phoenix Book and their mother, they aren't allowed to have identities outside of being Phoenixes. This causes their relationship to the other to be strained, but they still love and care for each other. But for the love of God, they just want 5 minutes of alone time without their neck being breathed on. The twin story is the one I planned out first and has remained for the most part unchanged throughout these 8 years of having them. If you're following along with the themes, then you can accurately guess that the twins represent the bargaining and depression stages of the grief cycle. Foe is the older twin but less favored, and so tries to have the best life possible to cope with being a phoenix. Back then, he did it for his family, but after an incident occurs, he runs away from the royal life, seemingly never to be heard from again until his death is announced. Faith was less determined, seeing how she was stuck with this role. Instead of fighting like Foe had, she just does whatever her mother says. Her mother only gets stricter once Foe is gone, wanting her family's reputation to be as perfect as possible. This doesn't last long, though, as Faith has her own breaking point, causing her to be sentenced to hanging after killing her and Foe's mother. It is theorized that they did indeed die on the same day, their birthday, the day the hanging was to be. None of the Phoenixes so far have died peacefully, but what changes even more with the twins is that the public didn't like them at the end of their lives. They weren't as perfect as Cecilia or as Ishel were. It didn't help that the monarchy fell soon after the twins' deaths, so as a result of the twins' very existence, the Phoenix Blessing was renamed to what we know today as the Phoenix Curse. As you can tell, I wanted the twins to change everything about the prophecy routine, and to show what would realistically could happen if someone was chosen as a phoenix, because let's face it, being chosen as a god is much more of a shitty curse than anything good. Now, on to the last past phoenix, Maribel, the only phoenix to die happy. Maribel is a unique finale to the current past phoenixes, because she is the only normal civilian here. No being seen as a god, no royalty, just a science nerd in the early 1970s to her death in 1990. When she was born, there were mixed reactions. 2 past phoenixes ended up as blessings, and the twins ended up as curses, so how would she fare? By accepting her fate. Maribel is the last stage of grief, acceptance, and that's why her life ended up the most normal out of everybody. She didn't do anything big, she just tried to live her life as a normal kid, knowing she would die at 18. Until she got pregnant, that is. She got pregnant by her boyfriend, who then bailed on her, a classic story. When news broke out of her pregnancy, almost everyone in her life bailed on her, now having an excuse to run and call her a curse. Almost like everyone was banking on that to happen the entire time. The entire rest of her life was dedicated to making sure her kid lived as normal of a life as possible, both with Maribel and, inevitably once she died, without her. She succeeded in keeping the identity of her kid a secret, so it's currently unknown what that kid could be today, and with what they may even look like with how successful she was in keeping her kid completely anonymous. I already know how her arc finishes, but I can't say anything about it because that includes major spoilers about the story overall. There's so much more I want to talk about as well, for example side characters, both canon and possibly designing future ones, but I'm currently on page 6 of the script, so I gotta leave it here unfortunately. Also, my throat is starting to hurt recording this. If you watched to the end, thanks! I really hope you enjoyed learning about my story, Find the Legacy. I've got like 2 other stories in the works, but I'll save those for some more future videos. With all that being said, goodbye!